morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this very first hybrid service of the Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, a loving, spirited, and ever more inclusive community. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, whomever you love, and whatever your faith tradition, you are welcome here, on person or online. My name is Susan Pratt, and I am the service assistant today. Board member Karl Bach will be helping me out because Kate Lohr cannot be present. She has pre-recorded her reading and sermon, so she will be here virtually. She says she's disappointed not to be here, but following her injury, she's just doing the best she can to follow the doctor's orders, so she'll get better soon. I'd like to begin this service by acknowledging that the water, land, and shorelines here in Port Townsend are the traditional territory of the S'Klallam and Shimmikum peoples. We honor and acknowledge our Indigenous members and neighbors and vow to help restore and sustain their homelands. In a moment, we will light our chalice, but first, let us settle our minds and calm our hearts with the ringing of the chime. Our call to community today is Open the Door by Joyce Poley, sung by QUUF's Vaccinated Voices Choir, with Pat Rodgers conducting and Shelley Brown at the piano. Thank you, Vaccinated Voices and Shelley. Now it is time for our chalice lighting ritual. Please join me and Karl Bach in reciting these words by Katie Gelfand. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together in the authentic and creative manner of our connections. We cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the words we nourish and uplift each other. We light this chalice in gratitude. Thank you, Karl. Our opening words were written by our minister, Kate Lohr. And so, the day has finally arrived when we can gather together in person and online for our very first hybrid service. This is a new day and a changing time. We come ready to greet the new, thirsty for connection with others, and hopeful that brighter days are upon us. May each of us here feel connected and loved to each other and the sacred dimensions of life. It is so good to be together. We'd now like to welcome Bo, who will share our time for all ages.
Good morning, everyone. I'm over in RE right now, but I'm glad to be here with you too. I have loved sharing stories each week during the services, and I will continue to do so sometimes, but we're also going to have other people share stories during the services going forward. Let me know if you would like to be a reader too. Today, in honor of the end of our exclusively online services and the beginning of our hybrid services, I wanted to share this story, The End is Just the Beginning, written by Mike Bender and illustrated by Diana Mayo. The end. That's right. You read that correctly. You've reached the end. And the beginning. But wait, how can a book possibly start with the end? That's ridiculous. Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because the end isn't really the end. It's just the beginning of something else. Like this beautiful sunset. Sure seems like the end of the day, right? Not so fast. You see, when the sun goes down, it's actually just the beginning of the night. When all the snow melts at the end of winter, it just means it's the beginning of spring. And if you try to go to the ends of the earth, you'll actually just keep going back to the beginning, because the earth is just one big circle. If you blast off in a rocket ship, you'll reach the end of the sky, otherwise known as the beginning of outer space. When you count, the end of one number is just the beginning of the next number, and so on and so on and so on, all the way to infinity, which, by the way, never ends. Even a sign that literally says dead end isn't an end at all. It's only the beginning of whatever lies beyond it. So when you really think about it, the end is entirely endless. The end of a disagreement with someone is just the beginning of making up. The end of a mistake is just the beginning of learning something new. The end of being sick is just the beginning of feeling better. The end of dinner is just the beginning of dessert, and if you're really, really well behaved, the end of dessert might just be the beginning of more dessert. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and go to bed, don't think of it as the end of anything. Just think of it as the beginning of a new tomorrow, full of possibilities. The beginning of discovering the next chapter.
Thank you, Bo. That was wonderful as always. And now we'd like to welcome and acknowledge those of you who are visiting us this morning. If you are joining us online, you are invited to say hello in the chat section, tell us your name and where you're from. And if you are here in person, you are invited to stand up as you are able or raise your hand so we can welcome you. Are there any newcomers here today? Welcome. We're glad you're with us. It is now time for our offering. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. David Whitney to tell us about our offering recipient today. Dr. Whitney is the president of the board for ECHO. Dr. Whitney, would you like to come up and talk to us?
Good morning. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. I've been here 10 minutes and already met 4 people that are using ECHO equipment, so. I was told I have 2 minutes to talk. Well, my mind can't hold that much information, so I have this many notes. ECHO is an acronym for Ecumenical Christian Helping Hands Organization. 25 years ago, Jeanette and Bruce Travis, members of our First Presbyterian Church here, saw that our community seniors and handicapped had a need for medical transportation and equipment. They founded ECHO, a nonprofit with the mission of providing free rides to medical destinations on the Olympic Peninsula and to Seattle, as well as lending everything from wheelchairs to elevated toilet seats to those in need. I'm told by Kay Ann that your pastor, Kate, is unfortunately in need of 4 different items that she's now using from ECHO. We have our office and equipment center in a small building located and donated by the Presbyterian Church right in back of the church. We have 2.5 full staff members and a board of 7. Our heart, however, is comprised of our wonderful giving volunteer drivers, community partner organizations such as Quimper Unitarian Universal, and our many generous donors. Our main budget item, besides our staff, is reimbursing our volunteer drivers for their ever-increasing fuel costs. Last year, our volunteers, and we have one volunteer driver right here, drove 44,786 miles, taking 2,461 hours out of their day. We loaned out 1,657 pieces of equipment last year. Like everyone else and other organizations, we were affected by COVID with concerns of contagion. Our volunteer drivers dropped from 37 to 12. But by the grace of God and help of our wonderful community, our drivers are gradually returning. However, if any of you would like to share your car and some time, I think you would find it a very rewarding experience and an opportunity to meet some exceptional people. Our website is ECHOJC for Jefferson County, echojc.org. We profusely thank you for the recognition and generous donation this morning.
Thank you for joining us today, David, and for your leadership in this essential service. If you would like to donate today, you have 3 options. You may text the amount you would like to give to the number now showing on the screen. There it is. Go to our website, QUUF.org, and click on the giving link. Or you can write a check. You can either mail that check to QUUF, remembering to write ECHO in the memo line, or put it in a collection basket as you leave the building. John Collins and Kyan Anderson will be standing by 2 of the outside doors holding baskets marked ECHO, so you will know that they're not just stealing your money. Look for the brown basket that says ECHO on it. You may also put cash in the basket if you would like. And I think, are there envelopes? No, just throw the money in there. It'll come to good use. So we will not be passing around a collection plate today, but we will, what am I saying? If those of you who are with us online, you may do your offering now while we listen to Katie Ottaway and Helen Lauritzen play John Nugent and Mrs. Edwards by O'Carolan, collected in the Hibernian Muse. Enjoy. Thank you, Katie and Helen. Now I have a few important announcements to share with you. First announcement, for any local people who may be watching online today, we want to make sure you know that we opened our doors for Sunday service today for the first time in 2 years. Hooray! And if you would like to join us in person next Sunday, please plan on arriving early. Doors will open at 9:15. Please note that no pre-registration will be required, but you will be asked to sign in with a vaccination check at the doors. If you would like to expedite that process of showing your vaccination, you may come to the office during office hours to get your vaccine card checked off or leave a copy. Bring an N94 or N95 mask. In this space, they are still required inside the building. Thank you for your patience and understanding. We're just trying to make our reopening as smooth as possible, and there will be things that we can do in the future that we can't quite do now. But don't worry, we will continue streaming our 10 a.m. services, so you will always have a choice between joining us in person or online. Secondly, Easter is coming up on April 17th, which is also the time of our annual Flower Communion service. We will have in-person and online options for this communion. If you plan on attending in person, though, please note that we'd like to have each person bring a flower or two with you that day. And if you plan on attending online, please note that we will be doing another selfie roundup. So please send a photo of you or your loved ones with flowers to selfie, SELFIE, at QUUF.org no later than April 7th. Thank you for everyone. Thank you. It will be fun to experience our first hybrid Easter. And now, I would like to introduce our pledge mascot, Buddy Wagerson, for a fun reminder.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Buddy Wagerson, and I am pleased to be your Pledge Campaign Ambassador. The annual Pledge Campaign is an important time. It's a time we take stock and reflect on our commitment to QUUF. Annually, we are called to make a financial commitment to nourish so our beloved congregation can flourish. The Pledge Committee has been working doggedly for months now. In January, they asked me to be the ambassador for this year's campaign. As you can imagine, I had to pause. I had many sleepless nights. On one hand, I love being in the spotlight, but I've never been an ambassador before. Were they barking up the wrong tree? Could this old dog learn a new trick or two? I asked Susie Gorski, what would it entail? The committee asked me to create a display to track the pledges as they come in. Now that sounded like a challenge I could take a bite out of. How could we track the pledges? Doggone it, what would really hit the spot? And I realized with this year's theme of flourishing and nourishing, we could embrace the beauty of nature. Like many of you, I'm a gardener, and you should see me dig a hole. I've created probably the world's first blossometer. Here it is at the beginning of the campaign. The goal is marked at the top. You'll see a picture of the new pledge total in the weekly update every Friday. The blossometer will continue to fill with blossoms as we work towards our goal. Here's how the dulcimer will look when the budget is fully funded. Isn't that grand? The dogwood tree has always had a special place in my heart. The blossom's gorgeous. Plus, you can always identify it by its bark. Slow down, Robin. Here's some more exciting news. On Saturday, April 2nd, which is only next Saturday, from noon to 3 p.m., everyone here and everyone listening at home is invited to the Nourish to Flourish Pledge Open House at QUUF outdoors in the South parking lot. Look for the tents and the colorful pennants. I'll be there with host John Tyberski and Kate Moore. I asked the committee, will there be treats? You can actually have lunch, in fact. There will be grilled beef burgers, veggie burgers, baked beans, salads, and cake. There will be games, including corn toss, giant Jenga, and bocce ball, and a station to make wiener dog balloons. Come have your picture taken with me. Say cheese. Well-behaved pets on leashes are also welcome to come for a photo with me. Bring your pledge, and we'll ring the bell. You'll see the dulcimer in person. If you've already pledged, just come and have fun. April 17th is the deadline for getting your pledge in. When we turn in our pledges, we help the Pledge and Finance Committee members, all of whom work like dogs. But really, the best part of the event will be seeing each other in person. It's our chance to join together and celebrate our wonderful community. I really hope to see all of you there. And now, here's John Tyberski to tell us why he supports QUUF.
I'll get you a treat later, buddy. Mary and I joined the Vancouver, Washington UU Church in 1996. Prior to that, we lived in several places doing the chase the promotions corporate job change thing. One of those places was good old Port Townsend back in 79 through 81. Also, our oldest son was born here, so we have a strong connection to this community. And by community, I mean QUUF and Port Townsend. It's hard to separate this town from the church and vice versa. They are so connected. As involved UUs in Vancouver, we of course heard of this UU church on the Olympic Peninsula that was strong, vibrant, and growing dramatically. When it came time for us to decide where we wanted to retire, it was easy. We bought a lot, took 3 years to build a house, and upon retirement, we moved here about 7 years ago. We immediately became involved in committees, leadership roles, affinity groups, ALPS classes, and fundraisers. Through all this, we have been enriched with so many good friends and solid relationships, helping us live out our values and principles. We were both raised Catholic with its rigid principles, dogma, and top-down dictatorial approach. Having rejected that spiritual path early in our lives, friends introduced us to the UU way of life. We are truly blessed to have found this beautiful liberal approach to living the best lives that we can. Last year, our family experienced a tragedy, and we were surrounded with tremendous support and caring from this congregation. It showed us the importance of community and how fortunate we were to have found this one. We support it, and we will continue to support it with our hearts and with our finances as earnestly as we can, so that other people can choose QUUF as their spiritual home just as we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Buddy and John. I think his name is Buddy. All those dogs look alike to me. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It wasn't in the script, but. We will now share our joys and sorrows, recognizing that our personal joys and sorrows are only a fragment of the joys and sorrows of the larger community of life, and thus we place this first stone, thinking in particular of those near and far who suffer from injury, pain, and illness. May the arrival of spring help brighten your days, and may the kindness of others bring you much joy in living. And now, within our congregation, our first candle is for Donna Logan, a QUUF member since 2000. She is moving to be near her son in Delaware, Ohio. In the early years of QUUF, Donna was an enthusiastic religious education teacher. More recently, she was on the pastoral care team. She was also a longtime member of our Green Sanctuary team and had a column in a weekly update titled From the Kitchen Witch, where she gave out helpful hints to being environmentally responsible in our QUUF kitchen and at home. She will be missed, but not forgotten. Donna's new address is in the QUUF directory. Ginny Jennings, a longtime QUUF member, died this past February at the age of 89. Ginny's membership in QUUF dates back to the 1980s, when a small group of Unitarians met in the Tri-Area Community Center. This candle is for Ginny. Henry Amick's illness has recently progressed. We light a candle to wish him healing and good medical care with his progressive neurological disease. Libby Erner Wenstrom would like to share a joy that her daughter Rachel has been accepted into a graduate program in the Divinity School at Yale University. Rachel is currently a senior at Willamette University, and she grew up in QUUF, attending her first service here when she was just 4 days old. Amazing. Congratulations on this next adventure, Rachel. The next candle is a candle of healing for our member Katie Franco. While visiting her family in Mexico, she contracted COVID in spite of having been vaccinated. She had a hard experience. Luckily, she has turned a corner in her struggle with COVID and feels optimistic she's on the mend. Her dear friend and travel companion, Sheila, has somehow avoided COVID, but Katie's daughter, Daniela, and Daniela's partner, Mick, also have gotten the disease. Please hold Katie's precious granddaughters, Aisha and Sienna, in the light and warmth of this candle, as they have not yet contracted COVID. We send love to all of you. And we have a few birthdays to celebrate today. Mark Westland, husband of Dorothy Westland, became 65 earlier this month. Happy birthday, Mark. Also, Barbara Morey's mother, Betty, celebrated her 98th birthday on the 19th of March. Hillary Rosen's birthday was on the 23rd. Libby Wenstrom's birthday was on the 25th. You have enough candles there, Karl? Oh. Only one more, Karl. And last but not least, Katie's Ottaway's birthday is tomorrow, March 29th. Happy birthday, Mark, Betty, Hillary, Libby, and Katie. We're thinking of you all. And now we place a final stone, holding in our hearts the joys and sorrows I've just shared, but also thinking of the joys and sorrows among us that might be unexpressed, but of no less importance. I invite you now into a moment of silence.
Hi, everyone. How nice it is to be with you today. No, I'm not speaking these words from our pulpit. My doctor's orders have told me to stay home another week, but hopefully I'll see you live next week. And in the meantime, this virtual reality from which I am currently being recorded ain't so bad, is it? It's a photo of a meadow in our Olympic National Park, and it sustains me even as I stay confined to a wheelchair with an elevated leg. But enough about me. Here's our reading today. It's entitled When Giving is All We Have, and it's by Alberto Rios. And I chose it because it speaks to the transformative power of giving and receiving, which is a main theme in our service today. Alberto Rios's words now. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamonds in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too. But we read this book anyway, over and over again. Giving is first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue, I gave you yellow. Together, we are a simple green. You gave me what you did not have. I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference. So ends the reading today. I now welcome Pat and Doug Rodgers to share their beautiful rendition of one of our favorite songs, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive,
Thank you, Pat and Doug. It was a beautiful version of that song that I'll be referencing in this sermon. When I was growing up, we never had a car. Buying and insuring one was simply beyond the means of my low-wage single mother. This meant that I had to learn how to ride the transit bus at a very early age. At first, I only rode with my mom or my big sister. With time, however, I became quite adept at getting anywhere I needed to go. So when I began earning babysitting money in the 6th grade, I had no problem figuring out how to get to the wharf in neighboring Monterey, California. This is someplace my friends and I love to go. They had lots of inexpensive shops at that time, and it was filled with all the things a youth in the 60s and 70s might want. Blacklight posters, patches for our jeans, inexpensive silver earrings, lava lamps, and those iconic photo booths, you know, the ones that spit out pictures of you and your friends, or in this case, me and my friends. Now, it cost money to take the bus, of course, and back then they only took cash. So I had to be careful to make sure that I had enough money to get to the wharf and for getting back. I was always worried that I might accidentally spend down my return fare while buying things and that I would be stuck. So I got in the habit, before I even left home, of putting enough money for the ride home in the left pocket of my hand embroidered and beautifully patched blue jeans, while also in my right hand pocket, I had all my spending money, and I knew that I could spend it down to the last penny if I wanted to it. But I would never spend what was in my left pocket. It was my safety blanket, that money in my left pocket. It meant I could get home quickly, easily, and safely. And so you can imagine my startle one day after spending the money in my right pocket that I stepped onto the bus and reached into my left pocket, only to discover the pocket was empty. There was no money there. I knew there was no money in my right pocket either, but I stepped out of the way of the people behind me and checked anyway. I checked my back pockets and my jacket pockets, and there was no money anywhere. I had no idea what to do. The line had cleared up by then, and the driver was watching me as I frantically patted my pockets for money. I was ready to wave him on and start a very long walk home, but before the driver could close the door, the last man to board the bus, who was still standing close to the fare box, he looked at me and said, "I've got you." You see, he had recognized the mess that I was in. And with a simple, "I got you," he dropped my fare into the little metal and glass container next to the driver so I could go home. I said, "Thank you so much" to him, to which he replied, "No problem." And he did that smooth, quiet, head nodding thing that made him seem especially kind and cool to me. He then sat down and read a book while I sat opposite of him on the bus. We didn't say another word to each other until he reached his stop, which was before mine. As he stood up, I once again said, "Thank you." And he gave me another head nod. And that was the first and the last time I ever saw him. But he has stayed with me. He and this "I got you." He got that I was a stuck kid and needed help. He got that something had gone wrong somewhere, and I was in a tricky situation. He got that he had a few bucks that could help me out tremendously. And he parted with that money quickly and with no more flash than a head nod. Up until that interaction, I had thought that I was so independent. He, on the other hand, understood that I wasn't, not really. I may have been a kid who could manage a bus trip to the wharf, but there would be times when I would need help getting home, times when I couldn't do it alone, times when I would need the kindness of strangers to get me where I needed to go, safely and with ease. Yes, I thought of myself as an independent youth who could manage that journey and any other journey of life I wanted to take alone. He, on the other hand, understood otherwise. And through his actions, he taught me what he understood and had probably learned in innumerable ways over his lifetime. That we are all in this together, that we have to be each other's keepers, and that we have to give away the goodness we hold without exception, without reservation, and as limitlessly and luminously as possible. As far as I'm concerned, his act of generosity was an act of ministry, far more alike than unalike the kinds of acts of ministry that we as a denomination and as a congregation create in the world. For we too bear witness to fear, anxiety, and confusion. We too see people who find their anticipated journeys through life suddenly blocked by obstacles. We too know that sometimes things go unexpectedly wrong. Also, like the kind man on the bus, we too know that life is an interdependent enterprise and that we are elementally interconnected with everyone else on this bus, whether they be going home, going to work, going back to their homeless camp or domestic violence shelter, or to the bedside of their dying loved one. We also know that if we can help others, we should, and that sometimes we aren't the generous gift giver, but are instead the one in need of generosity. For all of us have known the type of uncertainty that leads to despair, fear, and anxiety, and all of us have had obstacles placed before us that we could not move ourselves. And we've all had times when we've clung to the notion of our independence to the point of making it an idol, only to have our pockets, our hopes, or our energy go empty at the wrong time. Yes, we've all had these confusing, humbling times in our lives. Yet there are also times at these precise moments when someone steps forward and shows us exceptional kindness, compassion, empathy, and love of another. Sometimes it's someone we know, sometimes it's a stranger. Now here at QUUF, we encourage each other to be that giving person, whether we're dealing with a friend, a family member, or a stranger, but we also encourage each other to allow ourselves to be the recipient of those acts of kindness with a heart full of gratitude, which is something I've had some practice in doing lately, as so many of you have helped me cope with and heal from my nasty ankle injury. Yes, everything we do here, every ministry that we enliven is centered on those two expressions of faith that the Rodgers just sang. To you I give, from you I receive. We see it in our justice ministries. We see it in how we teach our kids and each other and throughout our Sunday services. It's what guides the pastoral care that we offer one another. And it's the center of that friendship we offer each other that strengthens and connects us here. Yes, if we think about it, every ministry taking place here is one in which we give of ourselves and our gifts to the world as others do the same for us. And this is in direct contrast to some of the other messages we receive from the larger world, isn't it? That, for instance, someone without a bus fare should have been better prepared, and perhaps by the act of getting stranded, they are learning a valuable lesson, even if they're just a kid. Or that people who are feeling sad or depressed or anxious, well, they should just keep it to themselves and just learn how to get over it. Or when someone has experienced generation after generation of abuse and of oppression that we may not have personally caused, we rationalize that we owe them nothing, that they should pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and simply buck up. We hear messages that they should simply try even harder and get even tougher and find their own way to heal their wounds and rise above it all. Yes, these messages indicate that something has happened in our country that has nurtured a profane distortion of any kind of moral sentiment that values life and respects all beings. This explains why empathy gets sneered at and compassion is mocked, and why some of the most selfish and self-righteous hands among us are attached to people who consider themselves to be good and upright Christians or other people of faith. And as this moral corruption unfolds throughout our land, people continue to stand before the bus of hope and compassion, frozen in fear and anxiety, unsure of what to do and where to go. And so I want to remind you today that just like that stranger in my childhood, our congregation and our faith say to those people standing there, we've got you. Stewardship is, in fact, our most concrete way of saying, we've got you. Your fare has been paid by those who've come before. Come on board, sit down, take a rest. You, the stranger, you, the sad, you, the fearful, you who feels alone. Your fare has been paid by compassionate people who've built the walls of our congregation, who've built these ministries that illuminate our congregation, and who have built this sanctuary of hope and love. Now, sadly, many of these folks aren't here anymore. Many have died, and yet their gifts live on in the ministries that exist to welcome, strengthen, and bless us all. So, come aboard this QUUF bus and know what it is to love and be loved. Come here knowing that you are not alone, We've got you, just as others have us. And once you're on the QUF bus and you have your bearings again and some of your hope is renewed and you begin to once again sense your own voice and strength, I bet you'll discover that you're surrounded by people committed to transforming some of our most daunting challenges into moments of beauty and goodness. And through our shared strength and resolve, you too will welcome others aboard, that they also find warmth and inspiration. Writers who in turn will share that with even more people. You here, having had your fare paid by those who've come before, will then pay the fares of those to come, so that this community of love and hope welcomes everyone who seeks comfort, wisdom, and belonging. And now in particular is the time when people are aching for that. Now is the time when people need to be reminded of goodness, hope, and the broad call for justice that never stops sounding, even when the winds of oppression are howling. Now is the time when people need to be able to lean into the strength and vision of our congregation to find their balance and rebuild their hope so they can cope with life's challenges with faith, courage, and the strength of many. So that's why I'm giving this sermon on the amount today. Stewardship is the life of a congregation. It's about sustaining our vision that proclaims this loving way of being, and it's about practicing this every day. And each gift of every level, better equips us to serve more people with our bold vision. You see, the money we pledge is really about the hope we will build and the compassion we will share and the love that we will sound into the world polluted by far too many words of hatred. Now is the time for our liberal religious voice to sound all over the waters and across all lands. Now is the time to pledge to pay someone else's fare, to pledge to pay as many fares as possible, because there are multitudes struggling with fear and isolation right now. And it's only because someone else paid our fare that we have this warm and welcoming community we call home. Someone, many people really, years ago, looked into the future, imagined our lives, and with some elegant words and some casual head nods, put money down so that we could come home. It's our turn to do the same as generously and as possibly as we can. Each gift calls someone home to this place of faith, hope, and love, a place that can strengthen them for the journey and connect them with other travelers. Each gift is a silent head nod or an effusive warm welcome to someone who needs the same gifts we've received here and the same gifts we have to offer. Each gift is the fare of someone, perhaps a kid, away from home and a little scared, who would be blessed by our digging deeply into our pockets and sharing our faith. May we give generously. May we look at the lonely and fearful and sad and uncertain, the ones who are unsure of where and what home even is, and say, we've got you. May it be so, and amen.
Now you're invited to hum along with Doug and Pat for our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Thank you, Doug and Pat. That was delightful. Now it is time to extinguish our chalice. Please join Karl and me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish our flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Well, it's really been a joy to be together for our first hybrid service. Again, thank you for your patience as the new format is figured out. Before we go, though, I would like to remind you that there will not be any coffee hours for the next month, as the congregation is surveyed about the safest and most convenient ways that we can start having coffee hours again. In the meantime, we ask that you please exit the building in a prompt manner after the postlude. If you feel like conversing with folks you haven't seen for a while, please take the conversations outside. It doesn't look like it's raining right now, so it should be okay. So thanks for cooperating. We're just trying to keep everybody as safe as possible. Now, let us turn our attention to our postlude as we celebrate this long-awaited moment together at last. Here comes Playing for Change with Celebration by Kool and the Gang.
through all the years. So bring your good times and your laughter too. We gonna celebrate your party with you. Come on. Celebration. Let's all celebrate and